Right. Hello. We want to get started. So I'm Deborah Crippen, and I'm the president of the West End Neighborhood Association, and we just want to welcome you to our barn. I think the West End, we think this is our very own barn. We know it's the city's, but we think it's ours. So welcome. It's good to see a lot of other folks and other neighbors here in the barn. So I'm going to just turn this over to Jen Santos. Oh, there's some housekeeping. Bathrooms are through that door. You can go all the way around if you're too embarrassed to walk by everybody to go up to the bathroom door. I think otherwise, nothing exciting. If you don't have a paper survey on your table, we can get one to you. If you can't, you can either use your smartphone or we have paper surveys for people who need those. And I think this gentleman has those in his hands if that's something you need. So I'm going to turn it over to Jen Santos and with Parks, and she can take care of us.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you to the West End Association for hosting this meeting tonight. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I do appreciate it very much. And I'm Jen Santos with the City of Santa Rosa Parks section, and I wanted to introduce my coworker, Jen, who's going to ask about Spanish language translation real quick.
¿Alguien necesita traducción en el lenguaje en español?
Thank you. Nothing? Okay. Great. Thank you, Jen. And I wanted to take a moment, to acknowledge some of our elected and appointed officials. We have Shirley Zane, supervisor from the 3rd District here. Right? Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you. And we also have Jacqueline O'Connell Kanya from the Community Advisory Board, council appointed. Thank you. We also have Sandra Wandell from the Board of Community Services, also another council appointed board. And we have our former Board of Community Services chair here, Stan Gao, as well. And then finally, last but not least, our tireless staff that have worked really hard on this presentation, as well as helping to develop the strategy for coming to you, to the neighborhood. We wanted to recognize Assistant City Manager Jason Nutt. Mid-bite, right? And I also just wanted to say thank you very much to our marketing and outreach team who put this together as well, with help from the West End Association. If you could just raise your hands, as well as our park planner. Thank you very much for all your help with this. Oh, wait. And so just to get you started, I wanted to make sure we are going to do something really new to me here tonight. We are going to collect some information from you using our electronic Vox system. So you will need to get on your phones or your electronic devices and type in the code and go to the website or the address. Our city staff can help you get there if you would like to use your electronic device, or you can also use the paper survey copy. Just let us know if you need one.
Is this on? No, it's not.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, it is on. Okay. And if you have any issues if you are taking the Vox Vote survey on your phone, just raise your hand throughout the meeting and one of our staff can come over and help you.
Whoopsie. Sorry, while Adrian's looking at that, I just wanted to thank all of you, all the voters who voted this measure into for us to all use for the benefit of Parks and Recreation. It's a really wonderful opportunity for us to say what we like citywide, and it's a really great opportunity. And I for one, am looking forward to this evening. And so we're just going to start with a series of really easy questions to kind of get used to using the Vox system. You can also follow along by paper. So with that, we're going to start and ask, what is your age group? Obviously, you're only going to select one. Oh, it looks like they gave us a full minute, though. Does anybody need any help? Any help? Any help? Yeah, press reconnect if you got disconnected. Christy, Fred needs some help. Is everybody about ready? Anybody need a little bit more time? All right. Okay. Oh, yay. So there we go. Our most in attendance, 55 to 64. And this one's a little different. So this map on the table might help you just in case you need it. So we just want to know what quadrant you live in, and that might be more apparent a little later on in the slideshow. So the northwest quadrant is the area up above Highway 12, north of Highway 12, and west of Highway 101. The southwest quadrant is south of Highway 12 and west of Highway 101. Northwest is east of Highway 101 and north of 12. And then, of course, southwest is south of 12 and east of 101. Hopefully that'll help you. Does anybody need any help using the system? Looking good? Is everybody about ready? All right, let's see those results. All right, so fantastic. Our outreach did work. Always nice to see that we have attracted the Northwest Quadrant folks, but you can attend any meeting. You do not have to live in this quadrant. You can attend any meeting.
There's a map on your table.
Someone's here to help you out there. Thank you. All right. Okay, so we're going to talk about, now that we've got some of that out of the way, you kind of know how the system works, we're going to go ahead and do an overview of the measure, just as a reminder for you all. And so the voters approved this. You all approved this back in November 2018. It passed with 72% of the vote. So it's a sales tax that is applicable for the next 10 years, started in 2019 and ends in 2029. And the estimate for how much the tax should earn each year for the city of Santa Rosa is $1.9 million. So we'll see how that comes out at the end of this first fiscal year. But that's the estimate. The funds can be used for recreation and park needs. It's for dedication to improving parks and recreation. There is a requirement to have a baseline of effort, which really means that this funding cannot supplant some of the activities that we do now. It really is for new things or better opportunities, better services. And so here's some of these are the exact allowable uses. Let me just say that these are exactly from the measure, and we didn't mince words here. We didn't change it. We wanted you to be able to see exactly what was approved by the voters yourselves. So maintaining parks and recreation facilities to ensure safe, clean, accessible visitor experiences. So that's about maintenance, right, and clean and safe parks. You can improve, develop athletic fields, playgrounds, restrooms, picnic areas, and visitor amenities. So that's park improvements. You can create and expand parks, trails, bikeways, public art, and recreational and historic facilities. So that's expanding of new or creation of new. You can plan and develop bike paths, trails connecting schools and community regional spaces. This also funds recreational programming for educational health programs for the community. And last but not least, decreasing fuel fire risk and fuel loads and invasive plants on city-owned open space and parks. So what the City Council approved after this measure was passed is we took a short-term and long-term expenditure plan to the City Council for approval. We also, of course, took it to the Board of Community Services for a recommendation. And Council approved this on August 20th, 2019. The initial plan is for the first 2 years, and the funding that they approved was for fire-related parks damages. We have numerous parks that were damaged in the fire, Rincon Ridge Park and Coffee Park's well known, for example. The other thing was to develop a deferred maintenance list of deferred maintenance. Right now we have a general idea of what things are broken and what things need to be repaired, but we do not have an extensive list with a priority of our deferred maintenance needs and things that need to be repaired. So we're going to move forward with that project soon. The other thing that the council approved was what we're doing tonight, outreach. We have an outreach plan that the marketing outreach team and I have been working on really closely to develop, and it's going to take most of this year to get through it, but we really want to collect all the feedback citywide, and so it does take time to do that. But that's what got approved in the first 2 years of spending, so that's roughly $4 million that was approved for those uses. The long-term plan will be developed after we meet with all of the city residents and we start to develop what has come to us as priorities and what opportunities we have to work within the requests made by the community and the funding we already have, as well as Measure M funding. So we're going to come back to the Board of Community Services and the council for approval of the 3 to 10 year plan, which is going to be developed by all of you. And so it's really important before you decide what sort of things you want to spend your funding on is to know what sort of funding the city has now. So if you look at how do we fund park projects, the city collects park development impact fees when a developer comes in to develop a residential area. They have the option of providing a park, or they can provide park development impact fees for the city to use in the future. And so we do collect those annually from each quadrant, and each quadrant, if you look at your map, is divided by Highway 101 and Highway 12. So we've got 4 quadrants. You can look at that map there. And so we do have that funding. Occasionally, the general fund can be requested to use for that, and grants as well. And then for recreation programming, the general fund exclusively funds that, except for neighborhood services programs do have Measure O funds to use as well. And park and recreation maintenance is funded out of the general fund. The one place that I want to note for sure that's different than all those 3 areas where we receive funding is the deferred park and recreation maintenance. There is no dedicated funding to this source. So when things break that are an excessive amount of money to repair, there's no dedicated funds, and we do often look for ways to fund those things that are creative. And so that is a funding source that is not always available to us. There's nothing there. So just want you to keep that in mind as we go through this with all our funding sources. Okay, if I heard you correctly, the idea is how is the funding distributed among the quadrants? It sounds like some of them aren't funded. Some. Well, if you're asking what the maintenance budget is that what the park maintenance? I would have to get back to you on that because that's a pretty big number, and I would want to make sure before I said anything that I had the accurate number. Right, and I'll cover a little bit of it. 1.9 sounds like a lot, but when you think of it in the scheme of things, it it may not go as far as we hope it will. In fact, we probably won't. But we want to get as creative and look at all the other opportunities, which is one of the reasons we wanted to collect this information tonight, not just for Measure M, but for all the other funding sources we have, to look for combinations of things that may not get funded by Measure M, but we can find another funding source because we recognize it is a priority, if that helps. So this is the map that's on your table, and again, we're looking at park development impact fee zones. So when we collect fees in each quadrant, which is, we've got 4 quadrants up there divided by Highway 101 and Highway 12, the funding that's collected stays within that quadrant. Occasionally, funds can be moved for a citywide benefit park that's or something, a unique feature, but generally the funds we collect in the northwest quadrant stay on our reuse to develop new parks and improve parks in the northwest quadrant, as an example. And so this plan also shows you some of the proposed and neighborhood parks that are on there below the colored sections of the quadrants as a reference. So you can see that the red trees are proposed parks that are coming from the general plan. And we have another slide coming up soon that shows the green parks that are already existing.
I want to make sure I understood. So development impact fees that get generated in, say, Fountain Grove are not used for places that are way less expensive. In other words, like the property tax inequity is perpetuated.
So if we collected funding from Zone 3, it stays to be used in Zone 3, same with Zone 1. It's not shifted between zones that often. Occasionally, if there's a citywide benefit or a unique feature that we have nowhere else in the city, funds can be used from all 4 quadrants to develop whatever that might be. Yeah.
Wow. That's, wow.
On the map with the 4 different quadrants, there's a vast difference in the ratio of population to parks. For instance, in the Roseland area, we have 17,000 people, but only 24 acres of park. But in the Northeast, it is far more saturated with parks, and so it should not be an even distribution between those 4 areas. But the larger question is, to make an informed decision on our part, we need to know the details. We need to have the implications of how that's going to be used, and to vote into general categories is actually irresponsible on our part because we don't know the full implications of what you're proposing, and it's fundamentally because a quantitative approach is different than the qualitative approach that would allow discussion of the implications of each of these questions before us.
I think one thing to keep in mind is we're going to come back to you with all of the survey results, and then we can have the larger discussion of how it's distributed throughout the city, because there's lots of factors that we look at and where it should go and where it shouldn't go. So we're going to take that into consideration as we move forward. Tonight we want you to dream big, and what do you want? That's what we want to hear from you tonight. And then when we come back, we're going to have the harder discussion about now where should it go and where are those opportunities. But we want you to think freely tonight about what is important to you. So that's why we're having these first series of 4 meetings. It's really important to collect the raw data so that when we come back to you, we can look at those opportunities for how to fund different quadrants, different council districts, different areas of the city that don't have as much parks, things like that. So we will be taking those into consideration, but tonight we are asking for the basic information. We want you to dream big, if that helps. So we're going to roll into taking the survey questions now. And so this is going to be not as easy as the other ones, but it's going to operate the same way. And they're going to be really fun. We'll be able to see the results right away as soon as we're done. And so let's start with the first question. How often do you visit a City of Santa Rosa park or recreation facility? So we're just looking for one response: every day, at least once a week, once a month, at least once a year, or not at all. Yeah, if you need help with your screens, raise your hand and we'll come and help you out on that. And you do need to hit refresh, is that right? Reconnect, reconnect. What is it? You want to use this one, Braden?
If the reconnect button isn't working, you can leave the event and put the pin back in, and that should fix it as well.
All right, great results, at least once a week. Fantastic. So let's go on to the next question. We're not going to actually start the question. We've discovered using this system, it does have a timer in there for us, so we're not going to start it until I've read through it yet. So for this one, it's a little different. We're going to give you a little bit more time. We want you to actually type in which city park or recreation facility do you use the most often in just a few key words. So we're not looking for huge sentences, just a few key words of which ones do you visit the most. And again, we're here to help. We have lots of staff here to help you with this system. It's kind of fun to watch the results. So let us know, raise your hand. If we can help you, we're happy to help. Just one. Nice because you just let it roll, but still, it keeps us on track. Yeah. Make sure you have your frequency. Yes, yes. So you want to go to frequency? So everything listed, right?
So just let you know, as I'm trying to scan through the budget, I think we're about $15 million
Okay,
a year
thank
of
you.
total budget park planning and park maintenance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So that's some interesting information. DeMayo, Depot Park, Findlay, Howarth, A Place to Play, and Taylor Mountain, which is not a city park, made it to the top of the list. Taylor Mountain's a county park, but good to know. And also, Assistant City Manager Net mentioned that we're about $15 million in annual budget for park maintenance and park planning, if that helps. Yeah. All right? Yeah, you bet. All right. So here we go for the next question. Again, we're not going to start it till I'm done. How satisfied are you with Santa Rosa Parks? We want one response: extremely satisfied, fairly satisfied, satisfied, somewhat satisfied, or not satisfied at all. Go ahead. Thank you. I think it's just a button. Can we get her some assistance? Yeah. Oh, she's using a paper. Okay. Yeah. Okay, it looks like we've got some work to do there. Somewhat satisfied, 42%. Fairly satisfied, 34%, which is great. So that's great feedback for us to use going forward. And so we're just going to talk about some of our park features so you have an idea before you get into the main survey of what sort of parks are actually out there. So park systems by the numbers. This is citywide, so this is not limited to just our northwest quadrant that we're talking about tonight. So you can see we have 1,032 acres overall for the entire city and 108 parks, and we've got several different park types. The community park and the neighborhood park type are the ones that are most common. We also have rec centers, open space trail parks, which Prince Memorial Greenway would be that, and public gathering spaces such as Courthouse Square, etc. And so when we look at just the northwest quadrant, for those of us here tonight, since there are quite a few of us from the northwest quadrant, it's kind of interesting to look at the acreage by the number. We have the community parks and neighborhood parks, special use parks, open space, none of those, a trail park, and public gathering plazas. So for the northwest quadrant by itself, there's 256 acres of parks and 24 individual parks. And so some of those are, Live Oak, Dutch Floor, West Park, Pioneer Park. Just as a reference, we have a Place to Play with a community park, youth park, neighborhood, Northwest Community Park, and Finley Park for community parks. Just kind of a reminder of what's out there. And our trail park is, of course, Prince Greenway. Okay. And this is the map that I was talking about earlier. This gives you a little bit closer view of the northwest quadrant. And so you can see Highway 101 kind of off to the right there, and Highway 12 down at the bottom. So we're looking at everything in that quadrant to the west of Highway 1 or left on your screen, and north or up above 12. Everything in green is an existing existing park, whether community, neighborhood, or other. All of the red are potential new parks that could come up as future development occurs within the northwest quadrant. So here's where we talk about some of our amenities. This is specific to the northwest quadrant. It's kind of fun. You can read through these yourself, and I'll remind some of you about our really cool miniature train over at Youth Community Park, which is kind of a unique feature for this side of the community. And horseshoe courts, lots of playgrounds, obviously very popular. But it's really good to get a good look at this to kind of see what is already out there in our community when you're looking at putting your votes in later on. So here's where you can put in your selections. And again, we're not going to start the voting until we've gone through it. This is what park features do you use most often. So these are existing features that you use most often, and we want you to select all that apply. Okay, we're starting it now. You have 1 minute before it times out. Okay, very interesting. We've got 77% for trails, open space 57%, and then it looks like the next is creeks and lakes. Great information. Thanks. Okay, so in this one, we're going to do something a little different. We haven't done one of these types of questions. This is what are the most important qualities you want to see in a park. And this is a ranking. So we have 1 being the most important, 8 being the least important. So we need you to rank them in order. And we have assistants available to help you. You do need to enter in the number in front of your selection. So if you want to rank something highest as number 1, you need to enter number 1 in front of it. And we'll have folks coming around to help as well. So we're going to go ahead and start it. Raise your hand if you have any questions. We'll come over and help you. Okay, so no surprise there. We're looking at safety at 7.7, well maintained at 7.3, and aesthetics at 5 for the top 3. Good to know. That's wonderful. And if you didn't get to do it there, we can do it on a separate survey as well if you didn't get time. It does take, it only allows for 1 minute. It is a little quick. Nevertheless, it's good feedback, and we can get you that portion of the paper copy if you want to fill that one out. Okay, so we have another one that's going to take some time because we're looking at selecting all that apply again. So what existing park features would you like to see most improved? So think about when you've been at parks, creeks, trails, what needs the most improvement of what we already have? So that's what we're looking at here. We want you to select all that apply. And are we ready? Have any questions about the voting? We're just selecting all the ones that are important. Yeah. Just select any of them that you can select all of them or none of them or 3 or 4. You can select as many as you. No number, yeah. No ranking. We just want to know what's important for you to get improved. So we're going to start it now. Okay, that's a very interesting outcome from my perspective. Park lighting, the most improved. The next one for improvements is trails and pathways, and the third selection is trees. So again, really great data and a little bit surprising for me. Thank you. Okay, this is another question for you to type in and tell us. So you're going to be typing in a few keywords. What new or additional park features would you like to have in Santa Rosa? So what would you like to see here in your parks and recreation facilities? Again, just a few keywords. You're going to type it in. We're going to go ahead and start it. Pickleball. I see a word I remember up there. That's great. So let's look at the frequency of those. So more pickleball courts got the most requested. More seating, which is great. A square in Railroad Square. Another pool. All-weather lighted sports fields. Beauty in near. Benches, dog parks, lighting, bicycle pump track, pickleball courts. Lots of great info. That's wonderful. That's really great and really diverse, I think, for the most part. Updated playgrounds, water access and dog parks, zip lines. Ooh. Great. So this is just a slight different take on the same question. So this one we're looking at what recreational activities or park features do you travel outside of Santa Rosa to access? Things that wouldn't normally be here that you would go outside of the city. And so we are looking for just a few keywords again. You're going to type it in, just a few keywords. All right. Ready? Great. That's what I'm going to remind them that really glad we got to be in the office first. It was our first time in the new system. And we appreciate your feedback, but we also Okay, pickleball. Hiking trails and pickleball are at the top requested. Beach, forests, better playgrounds, boating and water, camping, rock climbing, Doran Beach, El Capitan, long hikes, mountain hikes, Pacific Ocean, regional parks, hiking, soccer fields, soccer tournament events, softball and pickleball, zip lines, more trails, and swim spots. Great, great info. All right. So this is what we're looking at in our existing parks now. How often do you have gatherings and events at parks and facilities? So we really only want one response. Is going to be an easy one. We're looking at do you have gatherings and events weekly, monthly, yearly, rarely, or never? What was that? Yeah. Okay. In about 30 minutes or 30 seconds. Okay, everyone about done with this one? Anybody need a little bit more time? Okay, let's see those results. Weekly, yay. That's fantastic news. 28.9% for weekly, 26.3% for monthly, and yearly 18.4%. Okay, so this is another type in words, keywords. How could your City of Santa Rosa Parks and Recreation experience be improved? So again, we're looking for a few keywords of how Parks and Recreation can be improved. All right, let's go. Yeah, just type it in. Okay, so we're grass fields, courts, safety, soccer, pickleball, better. Let's see what the frequency is. So no homeless was at the top. Safety was the second. Better maintenance. More pickleball, clean toilets, no weeds, funding for maintenance, soccer fields, maintain playgrounds, lots of maintenance, more courts, kid-friendly trails, pump track, safety, updates on maintenance and safety measures, upkeep of grass fields, or access to all weather with lights. All right, good information. And this is another one response. This should be pretty easy, so I'll check in with you halfway through. So this is, how often do you use city park trails, walkways, and bicycle paths? So specific to trails, walkways, and bicycle paths this time. So we're looking for one response. Anybody need a little bit more time? Or are we good to look at the results? All right, let's look at the results. Weekly at 44%, and just under that was daily and rarely at 20. So like to see people out there weekly. That's great news. Okay, so this is, which of the following city park pathways and trails do you currently use? So these are trails and pathways inside a city park. And just a reminder that some parks are not actually in the city, as a reminder, and we want you to select all that apply. So choose as many as you would like or as little as you would like. And we'll give you the whole time on this one. Sure. So Santa Rosa Creek Trail runs all the way through the city pretty much. The Prince Memorial Greenway is similar, runs from downtown all the way up into the northwest quadrant as well. Fourth and Farmers Creek Trail, that's pretty explanatory. Hampton Woods Trail is on the east side of town. And Newhall is in the southern part of the city. Pear Blossom as well in southwest. And Upper Brush Creek is in the northwest. And as well as Vietnam's Veteran Trail is actually in the southwest. And Colgan Creek is in the southwest. And then you also have none of the above if you've never been. Great. Santa Rosa Creek Trail, I'm not surprised, is a really popular trail running all the way through the city. And as well as Prince Memorial Greenway. Really excited to see that. Those are heavily used trails. So this is the one where we're looking at recreation programs. So we want to know, which programs or activities do you currently participate in or have you in the past? And it's another select all that you like, so as many as you've been using or none. So we'll go ahead and start it and we'll give you the whole time. Somebody's taking notes. Okay. How's it going? Is anybody need a little bit more time? All right, great. You definitely have the hang of it. Special events, great. 74% special events, 45% aquatics, and then what's the next one? We have 32 sports leagues. Great. Okay, and we also have interest in understanding from you something that's been on our minds for a while regarding landscape maintenance. And so we're going to go through a few slides and ask you some questions related to landscape maintenance. Sorry. I know we have a few slides actually explaining a few things. So I just wanted to talk to you about park maintenance in relation to weed maintenance. And so if you look at the top photo here, this is Bear Neighborhood Park. This is something I would consider 100% weed-free. And down at the bottom, we have a park that's floating around 70% weed-free. So I just want to kind of give you some examples before you look at some of these questions we have. We also have the different types of maintenance. So we have the roadway maintenance at the top. You can see the roadway as well as the sidewalk adjacent and the landscaping. So that's a type of landscaping that's a considerable amount of weeds in that. And then we have down here at Galvin Park, nearby the tennis courts, you have some weeds there next to a path, but they're not encroaching into the path. And so we wanted to start with asking you about sports fields first and what level of weed control that you would think is acceptable. And so before we vote on this, I'm going to go through and explain a little bit. So we're looking at the very first category up there. We're very concerned about weeds, and we want 85% or better weed removal. We want weeds removed to more than 85%. And the moderately concerned about weeds in sports fields is we want 75% or better weed removal. We want at least 75% of the weeds gone. And then 50% or better weed removal is the level of concerned, so that we'd be looking at 50% or more of the weeds removed. And little concern is 50% or less, anything less than that. Weed removal, now we're talking about sports fields in particular. And so we do have youth playing in our sports fields, and when they're not well maintained, we often can have some accidents with youth sports. So think about that, and we wanted to get your response. We want one response from you, please. Does anybody need any help with this one? You about ready? Ready to see the results? All right. Great, so we have moderately concerned. We're looking in for sports field to have 75% or better weed removal at 33%, and the next is very concerned at 30%. Okay, similar type of question. We're looking at weeds on trails and pathways adjacent. So how concerned are you with weeds on trail path adjacent, and what level of weed control do you think is acceptable? So this is something right next to the trail. So if we're very concerned about that and we want 85% or better removed, then you might be concerned about weeds encroaching into the walkway. Moderately concerned, there can be some weeds there. You're okay with that. Little concerned, it can be pretty weedy. And then concerned, 50% or better is kind of the moderate level of weed control. This is adjacent to trails and paths. So let's go ahead and look at the results, or check the test. Yeah, so again, this is 85% or better, 75% or better. That's how many weeds we want removed. Everybody ready? Okay. 50% concern, 36.1 next to trails. Great. Okay, so same question. We're looking at natural landscape. This is places where we haven't planted anything intentional. It's left natural. So it's the same exact categories. And let's go ahead and select your. Right, so this doesn't include like fire abatement necessarily. That's a separate. This is weeds and what do you want to see visually when you look in there? So the fire abatement for open spaces is separate. This is actually park maintenance going into natural open spaces to do additional work. Right, we just mean maintenance. There's lots of different ways to maintain. So yeah, we mean removal. It could mean mowing or different ways of removal, which is coming up. You're getting ahead of me. Okay. So same question. This is in the medians in the roadway. So this is specifically in the middle of the road. Those little landscape medians, you can see them around here. You've got some on 3rd, and you've got some all around northwest quadrant. Okay, let's see what your responses are. Yes. Yes, actually, good question. Park maintenance is responsible for roadway maintenance. That's correct. We have a contractor that assists us, but it is our responsibility. City responsibility, anyway. Okay. About ready? Graffiti abatement is also park maintenance in a park or roadway landscaping. All right. So very concerned, 85% or better, 41%. Great. And this is similar. It's the sidewalk adjacent to the roadway. So it's not in the middle of the street. This is the sidewalk adjacent to the street. And so you've got a variety of private ownership as well as city, but we're looking at the city maintained throughout. And so let's see what your selections are. Okay, about ready? Anybody need a little bit more time? You guys are getting good. Okay, so very concerned, 57%. Okay. So this is what type of weed control. So this gets to your question a little earlier of how we remove it. And so it's a little different. It's not about how many weeds you want to see. It's how we get rid of them, to make it simple. So we're looking for one response here. And if you look down at the bottom, we're looking at a synthetic weed removal is something like Roundup. It didn't use glyphosate. It's not necessarily completely a natural product. It can be mixed with that. And so if we use synthetic products to remove weeds, we can achieve a 75% to 85% weed removal. In the middle category is an organic weed removal. It's also in a chemical removal. It's organic versus synthetic. So you're looking at a more natural material as a chemical form of spraying and removing weeds that way. If we use an organic, we can achieve about 50% weed control throughout the city. And then at the top, we have mechanical weed removal, which you'll see is the same as organic. 50% weed removal is possible. And so that is mowing or using hand tools or hands. So there's no spraying or organic or synthetic chemicals. And so, yes. Can you say that again?
What about the cost difference?
The cost difference. So if you're, it's a little tricky because if you're looking at synthetic, you have a cost for the chemical, right, or organic chemical. But then if you look at the mechanical means, your labor increases pretty dramatically to achieve a 50%. But we're looking at what is the minimum possible that we can achieve here, 50% weed control, and so they're relatively equal, but the weed control is a little different. As far as funding it, it's relatively the same. if that helps. Any last questions about how before we take the vote? Oh, okay, thanks, Adrian. Okay, yeah. So we're just looking at selection of one.
I'm just wondering if you were doing mechanical weed removal as opposed to organic weed removal. It seems like the mechanical weed removal would not last as long.
Yeah, so the question was if you use mechanical, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that it wouldn't last as long as the organic chemical, which is not necessarily the case. So an organic chemical only removes or kills the top part of the plant. So mechanical might, in some cases, be better. As far as longer lasting, let me say that. About ready? See the results? Okay. Okay, so the top two categories, which are very similar to use mechanical and organic weed removal. Great. Wonderful. And so same question. This is for your roadway. This is for roadway landscapes, and it does not include any fire abatement. I meant to say that on the last one. This is just day-to-day park maintenance. So which type of weed removal method would be acceptable for you in the roadway landscaping? This includes the center, median, as well as the sides of the road. Okay, everybody ready? Okay, so we're looking at an organic chemical removal there, 39.4. And so we just wanted to talk to you about how we can communicate with you, the way we can get information back and forth. And so we have a question: how do you find information about city parks and recreation programs? And this is another one of those select as many as you like. How do you get that information? Internet, city website, email, social media, direct mail, postcards, radio, word of mouth, TV, or something else? All right. Here's the big one, but that's okay. It's wrapping up. All right, about ready. Just a few more people. All right, email was the winner there, 67%. Great. And so this is, for us, a really important question for us to understand. It's essentially a repeat of the exact measures, and we want you to rank them of what's most important to you. So if you'll recall from the beginning of the presentation, we talked about the exact measures from the county tax measure. And so we've given you little highlights at the top, headers. So as a reminder, one of the first categories is to maintain parks. So maintain parks and recreation facilities to ensure a safe, clean, accessible visitor experience. And we've used a short word phrase, maintain parks, as a reminder. Improving park amenities was the next category, as a reminder to improve and develop athletic fields, playgrounds, restrooms, picnic areas, and visitor amenities. And the next title was create and expand parks. And the larger measure was create and expand parks, trails, bikeways, public art and recreation, and historical facilities. I've got a couple more. Okay, yeah. And we can, if there's any questions about these three measures, we've got a couple more on the next slide. We can answer those now. Okay, let's go to the next. So as a reminder, the last four, develop bike paths is the title we came up with for the measure to plan and develop bike paths and trails with connections to schools, community spaces, and regional trails, and provide programs which will provide recreational, educational, and health programs for the community. And then we had decreased fire risk, so decreasing future fire risk, fuel loads, and invasive plants on city-owned open space parks. And last but not least, improve waterways and riparian trails. So that's improving trails along waterways and riparian areas to benefit fish, wildlife habitat, and water quality. And so I'm going to go ahead and go to the next. So in this next one, what we want you to do is rank them. So 1 is your absolute top spending priority. Where would you like us to prioritize the funds here? Again, you've got those categories. We use the smaller words: maintain parks, improve park amenities, create and expand parks, develop bike paths, provide programs, decrease fire risk, and improve waterway riparian trails. So you've got those 7 categories, and we're looking for you to rank them 1 to 7, 1 being your absolute highest priority for us to use the funding for, and 8 or 7 being your lowest. And remember, you have 1 minute. Any questions?
These are in addition to your original mandate. These new funds are in addition to your original responsibilities.
Right. So these are categories straight from the tax measure. So these are the $1.9 million we'll be getting every year. This is what's going to help us understand where your highest and lowest priorities are for each of those categories for the estimated 1.9. So it's in addition to our regular funding. Great. And was there another question, or are we good? Okay, let's see what the results are. Okay, so interesting. Maintaining parks beat out improving parks by just a little bit. So 6.2 for maintaining parks, 5.7 for improvement, and creating and expand parks at 4. Great. Interesting information. Okay, so that is the end of our survey, and I cannot thank you enough. I know it was difficult to get through all that, and it's long, but it's so important for us to understand what your thoughts are. The next steps, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the beginning. This is one in a series of quadrant meetings. If you have any neighbors or friends or family that did not get to attend tonight, they can come to any of the future quadrant meetings. They will be posted on the city's Recreation and Parks website. The URL is up there at the bottom. And they can also take the survey online. They don't necessarily need to attend a community meeting, although they might get a little bit more of this information. This is also being video recorded, so anybody can go to the city's Recreation and Parks website, and the video will be available soon. So you can watch the video and take the survey all online, so everyone can see all the questions that were asked and how we went through the process here tonight. We will be, in addition to the 4 quadrant meetings, we will be meeting with our partner groups and special interest groups, such as our sports groups and Luther Burbank Home and Gardens, Bennett Valley Golf Course, those types of folks. I've got a lot of interest groups. We are going to collect, as I mentioned previously, all the information from tonight, all the online surveys we collect, as well as all the information at all the meetings we have up until May. And I think May, June, and July is when we finalize those results. And then we are going to launch another series of meetings where we come back out to you and present to you all the results we have, including your quadrant results, and then ask you how, again, what are some opportunities, and present some ideas to you to consider at those times. So those meetings are going to happen this fall. You can check the city's Rec and Parks website for those, those future meetings, and you can always keep update on what's happening with the survey and what we're doing next by checking the website. There's going to be a lot of information there, so if you happen to go there already, you would have seen all of this information from tonight on that website about how to come to this meeting here. Yes, and then we had one question here, and I can take a few more questions. I don't want to keep you all too late. Yeah, so the question was, are we accumulating funds? Are we still going to spend them in future years? Is that right? Was that a little bit off? Yeah. So right now they are on hold because we haven't finished any fire-related park damage projects yet. So remember, council approved the first 2 years for the fire-related park damages outreach, what we're doing tonight, and the deferred maintenance study. So that's the first 2 years of funding, and it'll be holding in the account until it's spent, and it will be spent those first 2 years. The remainder, 3 through 10, will be holding until we, the community, make those decisions. It's right now, it's an estimate, so it's 1.9 a year. We can definitely post online information on how much it's actually collecting, how much the tax is actually collecting. And one thing I realized we didn't mention in here is there's a Citizens Oversight Committee, and it meets regularly, and they review and make sure that our financial spending is in accordance with the measure. And we regularly attend those meetings. It just went recently. So there's lots of ways to find out where the funding's being spent, but we won't be spending any funding in outside of what council has already approved until we're finished with our outreach project. So we're not looking at we're looking at next spring to start anything new from that 3 to 10 year period, if that makes sense to you.
Hi. Just for clarification, if we go to the santarosacity.org, we will be able to send our friends and family to vote, right?
Correct.
Okay,
yes.
great.
Yes,
Thanks.
that's correct.
Thank you. And then the quadrant, what does that mean? Is that quarterly?
I'm sorry, can you repeat
The
that?
meetings with each quadrant, is that a quarterly meeting?
We're having one a month for the next few months.
Okay.
They're not posted online yet. We're still working out some of the final details, but they will be up there very soon. We're just working out the final details. So keep checking.
Okay.
We'll have that information available.
Okay. And then I'm curious, is there anything that we can do that we can start cleaning up our parks, the ones that are in our city that are filled with filth? Is there any way we can actually get active so that we don't have to wait?
Absolutely.
And
Great
where
question.
would we discuss that?
You can find me afterwards, or you can also search online. We have an amazing volunteer program. We have lots of community volunteers citywide, and we have an amazing program that supports our volunteers citywide. Easy to get started. We help you with tools and shovels and things like that, whatever you need. It's a really great. So you can check with me afterwards or any of the staff, or you can go to our website and look up volunteers.
Right.
And
But one last question. Where we all voted, I think everybody, it was a majority of voting for, was it the very first one? Park maintenance? What was the first one?
The first one was about age and where you live and that kind of stuff. Those are the first questions, the easier ones. But
No,
in
this
the
very
survey,
this very last one.
oh, those were the actual funding measures, the specific funding measures, right?
Right. And it seemed like there was a general consensus that we wanted to upgrade. So I'm wondering where the city parks and money is going and why they're so run down right now. I hate to be prickly, but it's kind of like, where is the money just to maintain them so that we can actually go and enjoy them?
I want to make sure I understand your question right. So we had an idea of how much funding we have. We also have about approximately 25 maintenance staff for the entire city right now. That's what's funded right now. So that could be contributing to what you see. We also have volunteer groups that come in and help in some certain parks or dog parks, for instance. They come and help out. It's a huge help to us right now. So that's our resources right now.
Hi, so that first category where it said safety and cleanliness, we're also talking about homeless or gangs or other people who use the park in an unsafe way that makes the residents and taxpayers and voters not feel safe going to the parks. And you do have to understand that before you build anything new, you have to make it safe for people to go there. Otherwise, it's a waste of money.
Okay.
So, how are you dealing with that, the policing of all of the public safety and health issues?
Well, we have a variety of maintenance staff. We have parks maintenance staff. We have street maintenance staff. We also have our homeless encampment action program. Is it program? It's a team. It's a variety that responds to encampments and other issues in the park. We also, which involves our police. It involves our homeless outreach team at the city and our partners, and involves maintenance staff, depending on where it's at. And so it's a team approach to deal with a variety of issues, and that's how we operate and approach those issues right now. And so when we're looking at it for Measure M, some of your choices went there naturally, just like park maintenance, right? Park maintenance. So it looks like your selections are matching your desires tonight. Yeah.
Did the new revamped courthouse square, was that pulled from the Parks and Rec budget money?
That, I don't believe that the Parks and Rec funding was used for Courthouse Square, is that right? No, yeah, right.
I
No.
just wanted to make sure, because it seemed like a big draw and kind of a waste.
Yeah, no park funding used on that I'm aware of, yeah. And our assistant city manager is nodding yes. And before everybody goes, I just wanted to touch base with you as well. I really appreciate being able to come out to the Northwest Community Quadrant first, as our first community meetings. But as you know, being the first meeting, sometimes things don't always go as planned. We're using a new electronic system that's new for all of us. And we would very much like your feedback on how we can run this meeting better, how we can ask different questions, or any comments you have for us on how to conduct these meetings in the future, and any more questions you have, any feedback you have comment cards on the table. You can give them to any of the staff, and we'll take that into consideration as we move forward. Yes.
I have a question about the cost of the administrative process. In my analysis, the Measure M will bring into Santa Rosa about $11 per citizen. So how much of this will go to the administrative process?
So I know that the county is going to charge us for the election portion of it, and I think it's about $350,000. And then there's, at a staff level, we're not charging to that right now, but the funds for this, for the food, et cetera, are coming out of those funds. So the funds to conduct those meetings, and anything else? I think that's about it as far as administrative costs coming out of the measure. I'm not following you. I'm not sure if I can calculate that 20% would be used for that. I don't really have an estimate. All we know for sure is the county is going to charge each city and each town the cost to run the election, which for us, I believe, is approximately $350,000. And then outside of, purchasing food and tables and things like that, there aren't any other administrative costs. If that helps. And I encourage you to visit our website, and thank you again very, very much. Thank you so much. Comments? Wonderful. Thank you.